Welcome back, patreon.com/the Derrick Lamon Experience, your one-stop shop for your gaming news. Hopefully everybody is doing well. I kind of hinted at this last week. So if I'm sorry, if you were looking for the show on the free feeds yesterday, I said that I was going to try to kind of change things up a little bit, the staggered release. So I'm actually moving the Week in Gaming to Tuesdays on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. So now there will be a 2-day gap, actually 3 days, I'm sorry. And then I don't think there will be an episode. As I sit here right now, I don't think there's going to be an episode of The Last Word this week, just the Week in Gaming, just kind of how things are shaping up. But I will return next week with an episode of that, and then that will appear in its new time slot on the free feeds as well. Hopefully everybody had a good week. Mine was sufficient, I guess I should say. Work kept me very busy. My kid is on spring break, so she kept me busy. She had her friend over. They had a good time. So, that was, good for her to be able to have some fun and stuff like that. But anyway, let's get down to the news because there was quite a bit this week. We're gonna kick things off with grain of salt. Um, uh, this is really, really interesting, and this could have been our top story, but we don't have it, as definitively being true. So I'm like, okay, take this with a grain of salt until we are told something. Next week will be or actually, if you're listening to this on the free feeds, um, tomorrow will be the Switch 2 Direct. I have the day off. It just happened to coincide with that. Look at God looking out for me. So I will be covering that. So everybody pay attention, stay tuned, all that good stuff. So anyway, this comes from our good friends over at Insider Gaming. Again, take this with a grain of salt until things are confirmed. And maybe we have an answer tomorrow. Apparently, the Nintendo Switch 2 will have a 3-phase launch plan for its games. With the Switch 2 1 week from its official full reveal. By the time you guys hear this on the free feeds, it'll be tomorrow. This year's annual GDC was buzzing with talk around the future of the console. One such discussion was around the Nintendo Switch 2 launch date, which, according to people that I spoke to at the event, falls in June. That's not all, according to various sources. The Nintendo Switch 2 will launch its games in a 3-phase strategy, starting with primarily first-party games upon launch, which first-party games are the lifeblood of your console. So I can't think in my lifetime of a Nintendo console launching without a first-party game, especially the Switch did not launch day and date with a Mario game. Super Mario Odyssey came October of that year, but generally when Nintendo launches a console, they generally want to launch it aside a Mario game. According to the sources, the second stage will arrive in October to November for third-party studios, most of which are expecting the dev kits for the Switch 2 to be sent in June. Finally, it was said that the third phase for games will be in the holiday period. In addition to the talk of the 3-phase launch plan, Insider Gaming has also learned that select media and creators will be attending the Nintendo Switch 2 hands-on next week, where they'll get hands-on with the console and some of its launch games for a few hours. The Nintendo Switch 2 is scheduled to be fully revealed on April 2nd. Again, if you're listening on the free feeds, that will be tomorrow. So we expect a more in-depth hardware coverage and perhaps some of its launch games too. A launch price along with the official release date is also expected to be announced during the event. According to various insiders, Nintendo is also planning a Nintendo Direct later this week, but its content is currently unknown. So here's the thing. This sounds strange to me. Third-party developers not getting dev kits until the fall just seems really, really strange. And that means you would have no third-party support for the first year of the game. Now, I've seen people talking about this online, and some people are like, no, there are trusted third-party developers who already have dev kits in hand. So I guess that means the people that they can't trust. But then again, like, this doesn't make sense. All right. Microsoft signed a deal with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to the Switch when Microsoft was like fighting the FTC to get the Activision deal ratified, right? So in order for Call of Duty that's coming this fall to be on the Nintendo Switch 2, Activision has to have Nintendo Switch 2 dev kits for them to get. Apparently, people are saying Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to come to the Switch. That means Rockstar would have to have Nintendo Switch 2 dev kits. So I just don't buy. If you don't give third-party devs the dev kit into the fall, there's no third-party games coming to the Switch 2 this year. Like nobody, like I don't care how quick they are in development. I don't think they're not churning out a game that quick. That's just not how it works. There are third-party developers whom Nintendo really trusts, and I guarantee you they already have the dev kits. And we will find out more at the direct. They're not just going to show us first-party stuff; they're going to show third-party stuff as well. I just can't buy that third-party devs won't get dev kits until the fall. That does not work. That doesn't work. That means you have no third-party support for the first year of your console. And given how long it's taking to develop their AAA games, even if it's a game that's already existing, like I said, Red Dead Redemption 2, for example. So that came out October of 2018, right? Rockstar still has to learn how to work with the Nintendo dev kit. That's the problem. Like they have to take that huge open world masterpiece and streamline it for Nintendo hardware. And then when you think about it, I think Red Dead 2 came in at like 80 some odd gigs. Nintendo's sticking with cartridges for the Switch 2. And we know this because we know it's backward compatible and you can play games from your Switch 1 on your Switch 2. So again, I say to you, this doesn't sound right. And I'm going to tell everybody to take this with a grain of salt until we hear otherwise. But I just find it hard to believe that no reputable third-party developer has a dev kit for Nintendo Switch 2 or multiples, right? EA is certainly going to try to support the Nintendo Switch 2. Lego Horizon was on the Switch. I would assume that Nintendo and Sony have had conversations about Sony supporting the Nintendo Switch 2. Microsoft is assuredly going to bring their games to every platform that they can bring them to. So obviously they've had conversations with Nintendo, and I would assure you that Microsoft has Switch 2 dev kits in-house at this moment at various studios, right? So this just seems a little far-fetched. I'm not saying that the June release date is far-fetched. So they showed us the original Switch in October of 2016. And then they were like, you'll see more in January of 2017. We saw more in January, and then the Switch came out in March. If it lines up the same way, they showed us the Switch 2, I believe it was January this year, and then said you'll see more in April. And then it came out. So if it comes out in June, that would be 2 months. So it kind of lines up the same way. The difference is that obviously E3 doesn't exist anymore, but we still have shows within what used to be E3 week. So Nintendo's essentially going to be launching a console. There's going to be a Nintendo Direct, and they're going to show you what's coming up on this new hardware and what games will still come to the standard Switch. It's a weird marketing plan. I wish I was on an invite list to get hands-on with the Switch 2 and see some of the games and stuff like that. I would gladly sign the NDA. I just think it's strange. I would have to imagine they believe that they really knocked it out the park with this one because they're not giving themselves much of a runway to land this thing. So I don't know. And then other news, this is not take with a grain of salt, but I just kind of saw something I forgot. The Nintendo bought the Seattle Mariners years and years and years ago, and then they sold them, but they still have a working relationship. So the Mariners are actually going to have Nintendo patches and Nintendo Switch 2 patches on their jerseys this year. So ad dollars, ad revenue has come to, the major U.S. sports when it used to only be, soccer and NASCAR and stuff like that. The WNBA, I remember when the WNBA had sponsorship, deals on their jerseys because they couldn't generate the revenue that the NBA could. And this is not a knock to women's basketball because I think that a lot of those women are fucking talented and they could wash a lot of dudes. It's just America was not paying attention. But neither here nor there. Anyway, we got that out of the way. So let's get into some other news. This one really quickly, not going to dwell too much on this. I'm not really I was never a Tony Hawk fan. It just wasn't for me. I had a skateboard when I was a kid, barely rode the damn thing. But anyway, this comes from our friends over at videogameschronicle.com. Bam Margera will be in Tony Hawk 3 or 4. After all, Tony Hawk has intervened, apparently. Despite suggestions otherwise, it appears that BAM will indeed be included in the upcoming Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, according to a new claim. Earlier this year, when Activision first announced the remake collection, it also announced that a list of skaters planned to be in the featured in the game. This list included every classic skater originally featured in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 except one, Bam Margera. Known for his roles in Jackass, Viva La Bam, and the Tony Hawk series, was seemingly missing. Now, during a live stream on the Live Club Skating podcast, it's been claimed that Bam was added to the game at the last minute after Hawk demanded that he be included. Quote, well, here's what happened, explained co-host Roger Bailey. The game was already done. Tony called up Activision and was like, hey, we're putting Bam in this thing. And they were like, hey, we can't. And he goes, no, you're going to do it, and basically made them fly Bam back out there to get body scanned and everything else and get him back in the game. So this might be news that's not out there yet, though. Co-host Chris Robertson asked. Bailey replied, probably. VGC has contacted Activision for comment. Nothing. Margera has faced a string of health and legal issues in recent years due to the issues related to substance abuse. He was fired from Jackass Forever, after which he was issued with a restraining order from the Jackass director, Jeff Tremaine. Tremaine had previously fought for years to include Margera in the reunion film. It was believed that this was likely the reason Margera was seemingly missing from the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake announcement, but shortly after the game's announcement, an image was then posted online showing Margera reuniting with Hawk at his skate park, giving fans a slight hope that he may be in there after all. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 will be released on July 11th, 2025. That's my daughter's birthday. Happy birthday, Keno. Although the more expensive digital deluxe and collector's edition of the game will offer 3 days of early access starting on July 8th. Featuring cross-platform online multiplayer, the game will be available for Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PS5, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Battle.net, Windows, and Steam. It'll also launch on day one on Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass. Now that I think about it, I actually just thought about something for the last word, so there will be an episode of Last Word this week, and I hate that I had to do that here, but I just thought about something, and there was something I wanted to cover. So there you go. What else do we have? Oh, this one's very interesting. This comes from pushsquare.com. This is a rumor, and this probably should have been a grain of salt as well, but I've been hearing this from multiple credible sources, so I'm expecting to see something in May or June when Sony has their show. Rumor is new God of War PS5 game returns to Greece this year. Sony has a completely new God of War PS5 game up its sleeve that sees Kratos return to Greece, and it's releasing later this year. New claims suggest, as the franchise's 20th anniversary, which came and went on March the 22nd, comes and goes with just God of War Ragnarok armor and skins. A tribute video and merch, Jeff Grubb, the Giant Bomb, has fueled more speculation around the series. In a series of Blue Sky posts, he states that there's still a Greek God of War thing coming out this year, but it's not a remaster collection, it's a new side story project. When someone questions the scope of the project in relation to the mainline entries, Grubb says it's, quote, set your expectations lower. This suggests it could be a title of similar size to Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, and that was the first thing that came to mind. 4 or 5 hour little adventure or something like that. Kratos goes off while Atreus goes off with Angrboda, trying to find the other giants, stuff like this. Maybe this is what Kratos did when Atreus left. Grubb's post on Blue Sky says, quote, okay, everyone keeps asking about this, so I've tried to find out more. There's still a Greek God of War thing coming out this year, but it's not a remaster collection. It's a new side story project. I think that those God of War remaster rumors just jumped the gun a little bit. That stuff will happen closer to this. Grubb was one of those sources suggesting a remaster collection of the original God of War games might be confirmed around the time of the series' 20th anniversary. So this weekend, but he's now stated that he was never told about a remaster collection. Probably shouldn't just go posting shit without having a credible source. Instead, he reached out to a source about the rumors that I saw were focused on a collection, and they told me that nothing God of War would happen at the State of Play, but something could show up at the anniversary. These new claims line up with suggestions made by Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming earlier in the year, who said the rumored game would star a younger Kratos. Interesting. So this would not be Kratos going off on his own after Atreus. He would be younger, so this is prior to Kratos meeting Faye and them getting married and having Atreus. This takes place well before that. This project is supposedly separate from the one that was recently canceled by Sony, which was a live service take from the Demon Souls developer Bluepoint Games. I'm going to pause right there really quickly, even though that's actually the end of this article. Bluepoint did the Demon Souls remake. They're not a Demon Souls developer. Blue Point also did the Metal Gear Solid HD collection. They did the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. I want to say they did the Shadow of Colossus remake for the PlayStation 4. It's not like the way they wrote this is like Demon Souls, and that's what they do, and that's not what they do. It's something they've done, but that's not what they do in totality. I just want to say that. But anyway, everybody keep a lookout for that God of War Greek thing. I hope it's true. Um, a lot of people are like, I want it in the style of, the original God of War games. I would like to see a younger Kratos in the same style as God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. I think with that single cut camera and all that stuff, I think that would be really, really dope. Just saw a picture of TC Carson, who was Kratos in the original God of War games. You may also know him if you're a fan of 90s Black sitcoms. He was Kyle Barker on Living Single with Queen Latifah. Jesus Christ, Kim Coles, Eric Alexander, whoever else, everybody that was on Living Single, Black royalty. So he was Kyle Barker there. He was Kratos in the original games. But keep an eye out for that. Hopefully that's real. In other news, this comes from Games Radar. Former Sony exec Shuhei Yoshida says the PlayStation marketing team had to completely redesign Crash Bandicoot and PlayStation 1 commercials because he was too ugly for the Japanese market. This is funny. The byline says late 90s body shaming was tough for Crash Bandicoot. This is funny. I loved Crash Bandicoot on the PlayStation 1. The funny thing is they did the remaster of the Crash collection and they said 4K, not 4K, but 4K. And I remember all of us playing it like that first night when it launched and it was like, this game was not this fucking hard on the original PlayStation. I'm just saying. But anyway, sorry to get personal so quickly, but do you think Crash Bandicoot is handsome? The Japanese PlayStation marketing team certainly did it, so they guided the publisher towards redesigning the unsightly creature for local commercials around the game's 1996 release. Quote, the eyes were green, former Sony exec Shuhei Yoshida says about Crash Bandicoot in a new interview with gaming personality Kyle Bossman. He had a really thick, what was that name of that part? Eyebrows, and that was a bit scary. I thought he was referring to Crash maybe having, a dick. I don't want to be that guy, but it's like, seems like that almost was the inference. But anyway, to tame the bipedal marsupial's deviant ways and hairs, Yoshida recalls asking his marketing team to change Crash's eye color to brown, like Japanese people, and you make the eyebrows thinner. Naturally, there is no point to empathizing with an unbalanced marsupial like that poor bastard Crash if he doesn't at least share your eye color. As a triumphant brown-eyed haver myself, me included, I know that I'd rather not look at things like babies, for example, if they have green eyes, because it reminds me too much of olives and makes me really hungry for tapenade. And I don't even like tapenade. Who wrote this? Anyway, quote, you see my issue, but Crash had bigger problems as we've established. Crash was hairy, right? Yoshida continues. On the surface, and that's a bit scary. It looks like an animal. So we asked the marketing team, can you make it a bit, for our marketing materials, make it really plastic, like a shiny skin. So they exfoliated the superstar until his flesh sparkled like a fresh can of Pepsi. Oh, and one more thing, Toots. If you want to make it in the business, you're going to have to change your name. I had an amazing marketer in Japan, Yoshida says, and she said that what's Crash Bandicoot? Crash is fine, but Bandicoot, no one in Japan have heard about this word, Bandicoot, so let's make a song for the TV commercial. What seems to be the final commercial, preserved on YouTube in low quality, depicts Crash as a triangle-nosed piece of gum with supermodel eyebrows and a guitar. It looks like something that would get stuck in my teeth, but Yoshida tells Bossman that the commercial worked. So another case of pretty privilege gets added to the history books. Crash may have been a 3 in Japan, but for the rest of the world, he's at least also a 3. This is not uncommon. When Sega was looking for their Mario killer, which ended up being Sonic the Hedgehog, the original concept art for Sonic, he had fangs, he had a guitar, and he had a bimbo girlfriend with big tits. And I think he might have had blood coming from the fangs, if I remember correctly. It had spiky wristbands and all types of stuff. And Tom Kalinske saw the drawings and he was like, they got to tone it down a bit. This is not going to fly. There are less restrictions on things like that in Japan, but in the 90s, when Sonic the Hedgehog launched here in the US and also in Japan, that wouldn't have worked. It just, Mario was your cute, stereotypical, very stereotypical, apparently Italian uncle who was a plumber. And it's me. but he sold millions of games and helped Nintendo sell millions of consoles. You have to remember, there's the mainline Super Mario series, but they stuck Mario in everything. Mario is the referee in Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Dr. Mario, what else? He's in fucking everything. He was called Jumpman in Donkey Kong, but he just evolved into Mario. They stuck him everywhere. So when you have somebody that basically becomes the mascot of your console and your company, it's got to be appealing. Crash was initially the mascot for PlayStation. Because it was a platformer. In those days, everybody had a platform. Nintendo had Mario, Sega had Sonic, Sony had Crash Bandicoot. Now, the funny thing about this is technically Activision owns the rights to Crash Bandicoot, so it now belongs to Microsoft. Naughty Dog developed the game. Naughty Dog is a PlayStation studio, but it was cool when they showed off the Intergalactic trailer at the Game Awards, and they said from the studio that brought you Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, and The Last of Us, and then Intergalactic comes. So that was dope. But he is part of. I still feel like it's a PlayStation thing. Like, I understand it's on Xbox and it's on Nintendo now, but I still look like, but for fuck's sakes, Sonic the Hedgehog is on Nintendo and PlayStation and Xbox. Now that's because Sega no longer makes a console, so now it's not weird. But the first time you saw Sonic show up on a Nintendo console, that was fucking weird, I have to say. But I don't know. I still feel like he's a PlayStation guy. And when I bought the Crash Remastered trilogy, of course, I played it on PlayStation. Actually, that's where it was available first. But even had it come day and date to Microsoft and Nintendo, I still would have played it on PlayStation because that's where I originally played Crash Bandicoot. So anyway. In other news, Mike Odyssey pre-ordered 2 Switch Hub. He's got a long post. He definitely pays for Twitter, aka X, because he's able to post this whole thing. And this has to do with 3D games with 2D HD style, which has become really common here. Nintendo's new patent hints at the possibility of revisiting classic Nintendo games in a 2D HD style. Imagine 2D art set in a 3D world. It would be incredible. Instead of a full remake, we could relive The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past in its original 2D glory with enhanced graphics. Stay tuned for more details. That would be really dope, by the way. A fresh patent from Nintendo was filed for what could be the Nintendo Switch 2. The document, titled Non-Transistory Computer Redoable Storage Medium Having Game Programs Stored Therein, Game System, Game Processing Method, and Game Apparatus, was published on March 20th of 2025, and it's all about making 2D style games look amazing in a 3D virtual world. Let's break it down step by step so you can see what Nintendo might be cooking up for its next console. The big idea: 2D vibes in a 3D world. This patent is focused on a game system that uses a 3D virtual space but renders it in a way that feels like a classic 2D game, like a side-scrolling Mario or Metroid title. They're using a technique called orthographic projection, which flattens the 3D world so there's no perspective. Think flat like a paper cutout. Instead of the usual 3D perspective projection, where things get smaller as they get farther away, the goal to make characters and shadows look crisp and 2D-like, even though they're built in a 3D engine. Key feature 1, fancy shadows with SSAO. The star of this patent is how it handles shadows. Nintendo's tweaking a graphics trick called Screen Space Ambient Occlusion, or SSAO for short. Normally, SSAO figures out where shadows should go by checking how objects block light in a 3D scene, but here they were customizing it for that 2D feel. How it works: the system looks at every pixel on the screen and checks points around it, called sampling points, to see if something like a player character is blocking the light. They add a little offset or shift to these points toward the light source. This makes shadows bigger and bolder than usual. I'm not going to read all this, but I will post the link to this in the episode details. I actually think this is dope. Octopath Traveler, whatever Dragon Quest HD 2D version we just got, this would have been amazing for the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster collection. I think I have Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster on PlayStation, which I need to jump back on that. But anyway, I think this would be really, really dope. And them setting the stage by saying, imagine playing The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past with this art style. And I thought about this, and that's amazing. Why the fuck would I not want to play this game that way? So that would be something I would be really, really interested in for the Switch 2, or even, I guess maybe the Switch 1 couldn't run this because, Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, I would be extremely interested in this, and I hope that this is something that comes to fruition in Nintendo games going forward. So we shall see. In other news, this also coming from PushSquare.com. Xbox has a lot more PS5 ports to come in 2025. I'm going to tell you right now, I would expect the Xbox Showcase in June, which usually falls around my birthday. But because my birthday was on a Monday last year, I think it'll be Sunday the 8th. My birthday will be Tuesday the 10th. But anyway, it hardly feels like it could be considered news at this point, but as Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is confirmed for a PS5 release in April of 2025, those in the know are suggesting this is just the beginning for the year. Tom Warren of The Verge, who has accurately shared details of various Xbox to PS5 ports in the past 12 months, added the following to the end of his article on today's release date announcement. Microsoft first started launching previous Xbox exclusive titles like Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded on PlayStation 5 last year, and 2025 will include a lot more titles appearing on both PS5 and Nintendo Switch 2. The news cycle over the past few months has been filled with speculation over what PS5 ports Microsoft has planned, with the likes of Doom, The Dark Ages, Age of Mythology Retold, and Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition already announced for the coming months. I'm telling you right now, I'm not playing any of those. The only one that I would even come close to playing would be Doom, The Dark Ages. Following games have also been suggested to be launching on PS5 this year. Halo, the Master Chief Collection. I'm not a Halo guy, so I won't be checking that out. Gears of War, if there really is a Gears of War collection, 1, 2, and 3. And I wouldn't mind if it included Gears Judgment. I seem to be one of the only people that like that game, but that's just me. If the Gears of War collection comes to PlayStation 5, guess what? I'll be playing it over there too. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. I kind of feel like this one is a dead giveaway considering the original Senua's Saga was on PlayStation originally before Microsoft acquired the studio. Microsoft Flight Simulator, I guess I wouldn't play it either way. Just being honest with you, I'm not a fan of like simulator games, so it is what it is. In addition to the above, rumors suggest Bethesda has a remake of The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion in the works, which could release as soon as next month. Don't care. No matter what Xbox games are chosen to make the jump to the other platforms, including the Nintendo Switch 2, it appears Microsoft's multi-platform efforts are set to continue and become the norm for the company. There are a few exclusives still, like Avowed and the upcoming South of Midnight, but there's a good chance they'll be ported over in the future too. Avowed could care less about. South of Midnight, I just played on Xbox. Luckily, again, and this is why I tell people, I am platform agnostic. I'm not going to sit here and lock myself into one ecosystem. PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and PC. What do you got? I will never be like, I really want to play that game, but I don't have the necessary equipment to play it. That's never going to happen to me, ever. So everybody's like, there should be one platform. And it's like, that's not going to work. Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and I guess, Steam and whomever else in the PC landscape, I guess just Steam and Epic Game Store, they're not going to agree to one single platform. They're just not, because then we just have a bunch of development studios. They have sharing, and I'm going to get into this more on the last word. People aren't realizing something, royalties and stuff like that, that matters. So we'll get into this more on the last word. Also, in other news, this comes from VideoGamesChronicle.com. Xbox Series X and S is testing a new Game Hub feature where launching a game shows an info screen first. Xbox has started testing a new feature on the Series X and S consoles, which brings up a game's information when you try to boot it. The feature, which Xbox has called Game Hubs, kicks in when players try to launch a game from either their recently played games or their library. Instead of the game booting automatically, players are first instead shown an information screen giving the player stats and news regarding the game. Xbox says a random subset of users who have opted into the Xbox Insiders Preview program have been given access to the feature, and VGC is among those who have received it. Upon trying to launch WWE 2K25, for example, we were presented with the screen informing us that we have played it for 66 hours, as well as our total gamer score for that game and most recent achievements. I'm going to pause really quickly right here. I know that the Xbox 360 launched with achievements, and when the PlayStation 3 launched, it did not have trophy support, and it eventually came. They're just circling each other. This is literally available on the PlayStation 5 dashboard. You scroll over to a game's cover art, it'll show you what your percentage is of completion in the game, how many hours you've been in the game, the trophies you've earned in the game, and all that stuff. This is the same fucking thing. And it's crazy that it took Microsoft this long to implement it because, again, we are halfway through. Yeah, we're halfway through this console life cycle. These consoles have been on the market for 5 years. It'll be 5 years in November. Xbox says a random subset of users who have opted into I'm sorry. We already said all that. I'm sorry. Recent captures we took for the game were also shown, as well as a list of any paid DLC available for the game. And the PlayStation 5 does that as well. If there's DLC, anything available for the game, it shows you that as well, over by the percentage of the game you've, done and how many hours you're in the game. If there's like cosmetics available, it'll show you that, and it'll show you the price in dollars right there. Microsoft's not creating the wheel. All I'm saying. If players aren't interested in any of the information, they can press A to launch the game. We tried to launch Disney Dreamlight Valley from our library, and we're presented with a similar screen, but this also included Events tab informing us about the new Aladdin-themed realm that has been added to the game. And they have a video on their website. The new feature appears to be designed to not only give players stats on their current progress within the game, but also to enable developers to make new additions they've made to their games, such as new events, seasons, or features more visible to the player, as well as any DLC available. Quote, you'll see information relevant to the game you've selected, such as your player stats, achievements, friends who are playing. PlayStation's doing this already and have been for a while. Recent captures, available add-ons, events, and more. Xbox's description of the feature reads, quote, and if you're in a hurry to start playing, the default focus in-game hubs will always be on the play button to enable a seamless double tap to play experience from the game title. Are there comments? Please let there be comments. Someone says, if I've misunderstood this, but it sounds frustrating to have to go through this when you just want to play something. Someone says it's honestly not really. You just need to get used to the muscle memory of double pressing A instead of pressing it once. I believe it can be turned off too. How about they make the info pop up when you're highlighting a game instead of having to go to a different window? Again, and you switch to another game on your PlayStation home screen, it gives you the stats for that game. This has been done already. They're not revolutionizing the wheel. They're just bringing it to their console. But at the same time, again, the Xbox 360 launched with achievements. The PlayStation 3 did not launch with trophies. So they've all borrowed from each other. Also, I'm really interested in the Switch Direct because I want to see if Nintendo is going to add any sort of achievement system like Steam, like the Epic Game Store, like the Xbox, and like the PlayStation. Nintendo is the last platform that does not have achievements for their games. If it's a multi-plat game, whether you play it on PlayStation or Xbox, there are achievements or trophies. Epic Game Store offers achievements in games. Steam offers achievements in games. Obviously, Microsoft Windows Store achievements in games, and those are actually cross. So, like, if I get an achievement playing a game on PC and then I play the game on my Xbox, the achievement's already done there. So it's like, I really need, like, I don't need Nintendo to do that. But I really kind of want to see them do that because, like, I put over 165 hours into The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Kind of want something to show for all that because people are like, there's no way you played that. And I literally have to like have to be in Wi-Fi and turn on my Switch and show them, like, damn, because you can't, because of dumb fuck Elon fucking up Twitter and the APIs and all that stuff. We can no longer share our PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox screenshots and videos to Twitter. I know, what a fucking herb. Anyway, yeah, Microsoft added something that has been on the PlayStation this entire generation. So, what is it? It is what it is. It is what it is. And then, where were we? I'm sorry. Okay, so here we are, and this is the big one, our top story. This comes from IGN.com, and if this is ironic, if nothing else. Game Informer is back, and the whole team is returning with its thanks to a new owner, Neil Blomkamp's video game studio. A little over half a year after GameStop shut it down in August of 2024, Game Informer is officially back, and the whole team is returning with it. In a letter from the editor by Game Informer editor-in-chief Matt Miller, is revealed that Gonzilla Games secured the rights to the Game Informer from GameStop and that it was planning to bring back not only the editorial team, but production and beyond. For those unfamiliar, Gonzilla Games is the game developer and publisher behind the free-to-play extraction battle royale game called Off the Grid, which is now in early access. It is also the developer behind Guns, the Layer 1 blockchain ecosystem powering community-driven economies in AAA games, including Off the Grid. Additionally, District 9 and Chappie director Neil Blomkamp is part of the team as Gunzilla's chief creative officer and co-founder. The tweet said, Game Informer is back. The entire team is returning, and we can't wait to reconnect. Come join us to celebrate the best in games, the people who make games, and the people who play games from around the world. I hadn't checked the story out because I wanted it to be natural when I presented it here. They're currently developing a game. Free-to-play extraction battle royale game called Off the Grid. So the free-to-play game, you want to sell a lot of content like cosmetics and stuff like that. I feel like if that game doesn't work, this is a tease. If they don't make any money, how long are they going to be able to keep Game Informer running? This could be a tease. This might not be anything. It's really cool if it works, but it might not work. I do want Game Informer back because I want real game journalism. And again, the irony of this is me reading this from the IGN website, and it seems like IGN has got crazy and worse every year. Ryan McCaffrey, like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is not compatible with this circle, and it was the circle button from the PlayStation controller. You're a journalist. You're supposed to be non-biased. Destin Legary, all the shit that he his face when Phil was like, no, there's no Xbox game that's off limits as far as going to PlayStation 5. Destin Legary looked like somebody killed his best friend in that moment when Phil said that. They're biased towards the Xbox ecosystem and and not to take anything away from other people, because the people on the Beyond PlayStation podcast, they don't even seem like they enjoy PlayStation. I haven't listened to Nintendo voice chat in a while, but they were still good the last time I listened. IGN has got so bad lately, so it's like, refreshing. Real journalism is back in gaming, but not so fast. The article goes on to say, furthermore, Miller shared that new owners insisted on the idea of Game Informer remaining an independent editorial outlet. They felt just as strongly as our team did that the only path forward was with an editorial group that made 100% of the decisions around what we cover and how we do so without any influence from them or anyone else. To that end, Game Informer is now operating under a new entity called Game Informer Inc. And over 30-year history of the website is returned after being shut off in August last year. So the archives are back. That is good. Team also chose not to leave a gap in their coverage, so they have dozens of new reviews from games that were released during Game Informer's hiatus, and the Best of 2024 awards are ready to go. And yes, Game Informer's print magazine will also be returning, but at a later date. Miller said the team wants it to be bigger and better than it was before. In the coming weeks, Game Informer will also add membership and subscription benefits and expanded scope to our video, streaming, and feature coverage, and a mission to broaden the range of experts and partnerships we tap to bring you those perspectives. I only hope, because it's hard to find magazines these days, I only hope that they add the option to subscribe through the Apple Books store, and that way I can just subscribe and read it on one of my iPads. If you're interested, you can create a new Game Informer account to stay up to date with everything happening at the website. It will also earn you early benefits like access to Game Informer magazine, archive, and exclusive weekly newsletter, dark mode, and early bird founder access. So congrats to the people over at Game Informer. Oh wait, Off the Grid is already out. It's been out since October 8th. I'm sorry. PlayStation, Xbox Series X and S, and PC is where it's available. But anyway, hopefully the funding remains and Game Informer is able to stay around, because we have missed true gaming journalism. We really have. So this is really, really dope, and I'm very excited about this. Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. I thought the show would be a lot longer, but it wasn't. But anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. I'm going to end this like I end everything else. Believe in yourself first and foremost, because if you don't believe in yourself, of course, nobody else will believe in you. As always, my name is Derrick Lamon Jackson. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my time. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.